Welcome back for our final session. Previously, I presented an overview of Black American history from the time of the Civil War and how it impacted zoning and housing nationally and especially in Connecticut. Now, we turn to how our schools treat this history. Many schools do a credible job, but many do not. Further, there is a national movement to erase this history that has been so difficult to resurrect. As before, we focus on Connecticut, especially the town of Guilford. By the end of today's session, you should be able to distinguish critical race theory from what is in K through 12 curricula. You should be able to explain some of the ways issues of race and social justice can be incorporated into the curriculum. And you should be able to describe the challenges in presenting this material in a way that is relevant to students. Here's the lecture plan. We're going to discuss systemic racism and critical race theory. We're going to look at the curriculum and diversity in Guilford schools. And we're going to discuss a strategy for improvement. So what is critical race theory? And can we distinguish racist versus racism? A social or legal system is not necessarily racist, but its structure can embody racism. While racist implies intentionality, racism may be implicit or explicit. Critical race theory, or CRT, began approximately 40 years ago in law schools to identify laws that continue to sustain racism, even if they are not racist. Later, graduate schools took up the theory to investigate implicit racism in social systems. The premises of CRT are that race is a social construct with no basis in biology. Racial bias, explicit or implicit, exists in our legal and government and social structures. Remedies can be devised to remove racial bias. Let's consider an example of the public schools. School systems sustain racism by several means. Because it's such a large market, textbooks across the nation conformed to Texas standards. In session 2, we examined how funding of the schools by property taxes sustains inequality and, together with health disparities, sustains the school-to-prison pipeline. You may recognize my elementary school, Hazel Avenue School, on the top, and my high school, West Orange High School, on the bottom. It was in these schools that I learned a sanitized, whitewashed curriculum, white man is hero version of American history, Manifest Destiny, the expansion of the U.S. to the Pacific Ocean was taught as a God-given right. No Black authors were studied. There was only a superficial treatment of Black history and literature. Even so, there were no overt racists in my school or community, but I was indoctrinated into a white narrative. We don't realize this as indoctrination any more than a fish realizes that it is wet. That is what we mean by systemic racism or racism using non-racist language. Our kindergarten through 12th grade schools are incapable of teaching critical race theory. These students lack the training in law or social studies to engage the topic. For more than 15 years, Guilford schools have striven to undo the indoctrination of past schooling by not using standard textbooks, through music, history, and language studies that are delivering a more comprehensive study of American history and culture, as well as that of non-Western cultures. The pedagogy they are using fosters age-appropriate research and discussion of content. They do not research how this content sustains systemic racism. More recently, the school system hired an outside consultant to examine the curriculum from an outsider's perspective. To relate slavery to the student's hometown, the Witness Stone Project was developed by Dennis Culleton. Faculty used documentation from town, church, state, census records, early histories, and so on, regarding individual slaves who lived in Guilford, and select some of the relevant documents for the students to explore. Students were divided into 5 teams. Each team examines these documents through one of 5 lenses. For example, dehumanization, treatment, economics, paternalism, or human agency. The teams then present their findings to one another. From their work, a stone is created with a brief biosketch. The stone is embedded in the sidewalk close to where the slave lived. Here are a few examples of what the stones look like and a map of where they are located in Guilford. The program has spread across Connecticut to New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. Let's look at the enrollment of Black teenagers in Guilford High School. We examined part of this slide in session 2. Recall that to fit all the data on one slide, the town population was divided by 10. So 2,000 on this graph means 20,000 people. For the total enrollment of the schools, 1,000 means 1,000 students. The Black enrollment was multiplied by 10, so 200 on the graph equals 20 students. After 1950, the percentage of Black students decreased as white citizens migrated into Guilford. As detailed in session 2, this migration corresponds with the construction of US 95, which facilitated commuting, and the GI Bill, which enabled migration out of the cities by white but not Black veterans. Beginning in 1974, the percentage of Black students doubled as a result of the ABC program. ABC stands for A Better Chance, which I will discuss in a moment. The population increase in the last decade was not due to the ABC program. Guilford intends to accept minorities from New Haven via the Open Schools program. This program pays Guilford to cover the costs of each minority student they accept, but the school is undersubscribed, and so new teachers need not be hired, and classroom size is minimally affected. A Better Chance is a national program. It brings talented Black students of low-income families from underperforming city schools to better suburban schools. About 20 schools in Connecticut participate. Guidance counselors nominate their best students, who must pass the national exam and interview, and then an interview by the host school. 6 to 8 students live in a communal house and spend a weekend per month with a host family. Study hours are enforced by house moms and dads, and a B average must be maintained. This isn't a problem, as students are motivated to succeed to justify the opportunity. The program is funded by philanthropy and businesses. Guilford's Hole in the Wall thrift shop, all of its proceeds go to the ABC program, and students work in the thrift shop. Most students go on to top-tier colleges that would not have been open to them from their home schools. Madison and Guilford were among the first 9 schools in Connecticut to join the program around 1974. Boys attend the Madison program, girls attend the Guilford program. Madison's program had a rocky start. Explicitly racist arguments abounded that were based on stereotypes. They would be inviting city problems into town. They feared the arrival of industry, multiplex housing, and forced integration. By contrast, Madison students supported the program. In his commencement speech, the Hand High School valedictorian decried the town's unwillingness to accept reality. He claimed the program was a test that many citizens failed. No punches pulled here. Despite a non-binding town referendum, the program began without any of these fears being realized. Today, the ABC House and its students are well regarded in town and at the high school. There was less controversy surrounding Guilford's program. Several newspapers, including the New York Times, interviewed ABC students in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. The students said it was a fabulous experience. Initially, they were lonely and homesick. It took a while to make friends, but they loved the program. While there was some harassment by peers, they said this was minimal. ABC students found the Guilford students welcoming, but somewhat naive. The Guilford students thought the ABC students would know a lot about drugs, sex, and violence. However, the ABC students reported that those issues were not part of their lived experience. As evident by high school yearbooks, ABC students participated in a variety of clubs and sports. Guilford's kindergarten through 12th grade curriculum can be viewed on the Board of Education website. For the past 2 decades, standard textbooks have been replaced with primary and secondary sources, as well as online resources. Literature and music classes include content from many cultures and genres. The pedagogy includes team learning and inquiry-based approaches. There are many opportunities in the curriculum to explore and debate social justice issues. Why doesn't this curriculum stick? Before the last Board of Education election, alumni claimed that when they got to college or out into the world, they were unprepared for social justice-related experiences. Here are a few possibilities. The topics discussed in school are too theoretical. They aren't directly relevant to students' everyday life. However, some topics' content is directly tied to Guilford, such as civics classes and the Witness Stone project that I discussed earlier. Perspectives continuously evolve, and it's hard for faculty to keep up. There is a weakness in some team learning approaches. Students know the part they investigated and taught better than they know the parts that were taught to them by their peers. Despite good efforts, white teachers and students can't view topics through a minority's lens. Interactions with Black students are limited. Further, Black students don't necessarily want to stand out or feel the pressure to speak out for an entire societal group. A delicate matter in today's environment, student biases are not explored in ways that make these topics relevant to them. To explore this issue from the perspective of minority students, Guilford hired a consultant. You can view his report on the Board of Education website. He explored several different stakeholders within the school, including the faculty. He found that the teachers were enthusiastic about doing the right thing, but needed more support and direction from the administration. They were fearful of reactions by town residents, especially in light of the harassment they were already experiencing from a vocal group of parents. From a logistical perspective, they were concerned about the number of mandates they received in general and how to incorporate them all into their work. They appreciated how the administration hired faculty coaches to help them implement this initiative. They also appreciated the work of a new family liaison who helps address issues raised by minority families. The consultant went on to explore the attitudes of several minorities. This self-select group of 30 students liked Guilford High School, but would like to see improvements. They felt isolated and unheard regarding specific incidents, a mixture of being welcomed, but also disrespected. The Hispanic students were annoyed at being lumped into one group, often Mexican. They were also concerned about being assimilated into the predominant culture while at the same time losing their own culture. Black students felt they were perceived as less intelligent and too aggressive. And as discussed in earlier sessions, these same prejudices were passed on from generation to generation. The Black students were annoyed by these assumptions about their background and race. Cultural issues are taught in a dispassionate and superficial way that was out of context. Accordingly, the discussions didn't seem to be relevant to their lives. The consultant then went on to work with a subset of the initial group, several of the Black students. This group was less apprehensive of speaking up. In the larger group, they were concerned that they might offend the others or appear angry and defensive. The neutrality of the teachers was frustrating because it shifted to students the burden of explaining themselves and living up to white expectations. For example, there was the constant need to explain racial slurs. Further, neutrality was harmful by giving the impression that racist behaviors were being condoned. Black and Hispanic students were also frustrated, even insulted, by the way discussions involving race were sanitized. They felt disrespected when different conversations were cut short without diving into context and deeper meaning. These students felt that teachers and white students regarded them as less intelligent and more aggressive. This led to the sense that their experiences were diminished because of assumptions made about their race. The consultant made a number of recommendations. Here are some of the key findings. The administration should provide faculty with a clear support in written policies. These should give teachers a clear understanding of what is needed and what is expected of them, and how their performance would be evaluated. The efforts to recruit qualified minority faculty should be redoubled. Offers have been made but turned down. Possible reasons may be the expense of living in Guilford and the lack of a critical mass of minority teachers. Additionally, the market for qualified Black faculty appears to favor the applicants. And we might think back to our earlier discussions about the lack of affordable housing in Guilford. The review of the curriculum and pedagogy should be ongoing. And I would add that methods to evaluate progress should be put in place to determine how well the school district's goals are being met and suggest ways for improvement. The administration should provide the faculty opportunities for professional development. The hiring of faculty coaches is a step in this direction. Family outreach should be made to address the tension students feel about having to choose between their home culture and school culture. Suggested methods included student, parent, and alumni panels, focus groups, addressing issues in a way that make the aggrieved feel whole. One method is restorative justice, which is a process of reconciliation of offenders with victims and the community at large. Happily, the schools are already making progress along these lines. In summary, a theme that is run through this course is that institutions and society at large embody racism without realizing it. This is what we mean by systemic racism. Critical race theory examines systems to identify this implicit racism, but CRT is a graduate school discipline that isn't and can't be taught in the schools. Racism can exist in school systems without overt racists in the administration or in the faculty. Guilford schools have a diverse curriculum that emphasizes exploration of and group discussions about diverse cultures, but there is room for improvement. The administration and faculty are committed to self-study to improve the curriculum and provide a safe, equitable learning environment for all students. Thank you for your attention throughout this series. I hope you take it as an invitation to read more on these topics and get involved in your town. A great way to get involved is to talk to your neighbors. Ask your state representatives about current legislation and where they stand. Stay abreast by following local print and online news outlets. Possibilities include the Guilford Courier and websites like the Connecticut Mirror and Connecticut News Junkie. Make your voices heard. Submit letters to the editor and write opinion pieces. Guilford and towns across the state are formulating plans to increase affordable housing. Visit the town's Planning and Zoning Commission webpage to learn what is going on. This is a long-term project. It's not too late to get involved and help shape these plans. Visit the Board of Education's webpage to learn about what is actually happening in the schools. Follow the controversy in the local news and speak up. Get involved. Feel free to contact me at Larry Rizzolo at larry.rizzolo@gmail.com for more information. Thanks for your attention throughout these presentations. I would like to thank Dennis Culleton from the Witness Stone Project, Joel Haylander, Guilford Town Historian, Errol Davis of the African American Heritage House in Chautauqua, New York, and Camille Borders, Princeton University, and the African American Heritage House for their helpful discussions. Carol Rizzolo provided help and encouragement. Edwin Williams and Charla Nietzsche provided stories about New Haven's Dixwell and Newhallville neighborhoods. Special thanks to Tracy Tomaselli, the Historical Room, the Guilford Free Library, who provided research materials and helpful suggestions. Please feel free to contact me at larry.rizzolo@gmail.com.